when I was a kid, I always played with mechano sets and erector sets, the equivalent of Lego sets at the time. And I loved doing that. I was knocking apart boxes and putting them back together. I liked nails and hammering things and whatnot. So I didn't know what I wanted to become, though. I discarded all the conventional things. First of all, I didn't want to be in my father's business. I didn't want to work in a store. I didn't want to be in a warehouse. None of that. Nothing for me. So I thought of all the things. Accounting didn't interest me. I didn't want to be a dentist looking at somebody's tonsils 8 hours a day. I didn't want to be an accountant because it bored the hell out of me. You're always dealing with somebody else's money from last year. None of it interested me. And I was sitting next to a fellow called Jacob Siskin, and he says to me, in grade 10, I was about 13 or so, he says, what are you going to be? I said, thought of everything, and I can't think of what I want to be. He says, well, I'm going to be an architect. Architect? What's he do? You know, he makes plans, put up buildings. A light went on in my head. I said, that's it. That's what I'm going to be. That's what I'd like to do. So architecture was a business, and then I'd have to succeed in the business. And now architecture, I knew as a business, as a profession, it was wonderful because it had a lot of fun, interesting, and then you'd see a result. Because you'd conceive a building in your head, you put it down on paper in 2 dimensions, and then it would be recreated in actuality in 3 dimensions. That was very thrilling. I fell in love with it because it had the elements of what I enjoy doing. I loved drawing, I loved building, and as long as I could draw and build, I was happy. In terms of satisfaction, absolutely. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. They'd poke me down in the middle of some place or other, and they'd say, okay, figure out what we can do here. Went to Nigeria to build a parliament building. So they wanted to have a parliament building which looked like the one they had in Quebec City, quarried stone. I said, there's no stone quarries in Nigeria. There's no masons in Nigeria. You don't build buildings like that. In Nigeria, you take a shovel and you have mud. You got very good sticky mud. You dig out the mud, you pat it together, you put it up high enough, you put some sheet metal across the top, and that's a building. Okay? So I said, that's what they have there. That's what they do. So I said, well, what are we going to do? We can't build a parliament building out of mud, because it might be a good idea. If you want to dissolve Parliament, you take a hose. That'll dissolve Parliament for you. So, I mean, how can you not enjoy that? Put me down in the middle of an African town or village or something, and they take me out on the Niger River on a broken down ship with the crocodiles swimming around the place and the water snakes and every kind of mosquito buzzing around you. And they'd say, and we come to a swamp, and they say, we want to develop this swamp. What should we do? I said, well, why don't we go to Weight Watchers and ask them to build a hotel here as a resort. Anybody who comes here will lose 50 pounds in a week. Okay? They never built anything there, needless to say. I love what I'm doing. There's nothing I can think of that's better than this. I don't lack anything. I've seen the world. It's a pretty stinky world. I've done everything I wanted to do. I've been very lucky in that respect. I wanted to be an architect. I became one. I wanted to build. I built. I wanted to write. I wrote. I wanted to draw. I drew. There's nothing else I want to do. I have no ambitions that are not fulfilled. I've got 14 grandchildren. I want to see them grow up. That's all. Nothing. Nothing.